This is 8 or 9 years worth of iPhone dummies, the mock-up models of iPhones that are created in factories in China to allow people who want to make cases for the next iPhone to know exactly what the next iPhone is going to look like, the exact size, dimensions, and all those different things. And it's a little early in the year, but I think we have the iPhone 16 and what it's going to be like for 2024. All right, let's have a look and see what we can find. Now these are very different. Normally, a dummy phone looks a little bit like an iPhone. So you can see there it's got an Apple logo. It kind of at a distance you'd think it was an iPhone, but it's actually fully plastic, doesn't work, there's no power to it, there's nothing at all. But you get things like what adapter, what connector, and all those kind of things are on it. These, however, I think they might be one step before that, because these are just milled metal. So, these are very different to anything I've seen before, and they suggest they've come from a different factory. They suggest that, essentially they're a step before that kind of mock-up process, but they still have that same sense of this is going to be dimensionally what we're looking for. So let's take a little look and understand what might be different here. Now, first and foremost, if we are to believe these are the iPhone 16, we'd have the 16 and the 16 Plus, and you can see here they've gone vertical on the lenses. So that's a big change for Apple, and that would be the flash point there. So there's still a little notch there for the flash. Aside from that, there's nothing absolutely visibly different here. USB-C, of course, still. And we actually don't get some of the things that you do get on the other dummies, which is a sense of where the speaker might be on the screen. In fact, on the top here, I can see a very subtle little mark, which essentially suggests that that speaker is right up the top. So this is 1 and 2. You can see there's kind of milled in here our volume buttons, and I think that would be the first thing that we notice there. Also, we've got an action button. So iPhone 16 and 16 Plus have the action button. So the presence of the action button on the standard 16 and 16 Plus is a trickle down from the 15. The action button was only on the 15 Pro and Pro Max. So that's a change for the base model. I'll be honest, I used the iPhone for 5 or 6 months and I rarely use the action button for anything other than silence. Anyway, standard volume button, standard side button, but this one's interesting here. On the side, where essentially the SIM tray often is, let's have a look at a 15. No, the SIM tray is normally on the volume side. This is the opposite side to the SIM tray. It's on the right-hand side of the phone as you hold it to look at content. Down the bottom is another button. Now, I'm definitely getting a clicking sound there. So it's flush, so that's really hard for you to see, but this button here, what we traditionally know as the side button, is actually sticking out, whereas this button here is flush with the edge, and it still works as a button, as do these. But these, the volume and action button, they are protruding, as they always have. So if we look there, you can see they protrude, but this one does not. So action button on the iPhone 16, as well as some additional button. Now, cameras have gone in this vertical format because of this. So is that a camera trigger? Is that, think about this, when you try and take a selfie, and you can use the volume button as a trigger. If you try and take a selfie, often your finger can't actually reach that. So maybe this is so that we can hold the phone out and easily take a photo. That's actually pretty bloody good. It's quite an old thing. I remember Sony Xperia phones having that years ago, but I actually think that's a smart move. If that's what it is, I doubt they'd make it programmable, because this is already programmable. So I reckon that's going to be pure camera shutter only. So that's the iPhone 16 and 16 Plus. Now let's look at the Pro. So I'll go Pro Max, and again, 3 buttons on the left-hand side, 2 buttons on the right-hand side, 1 button flush, which is, let's call it the camera button, and the side button protruding. Speaker at the top as always, USB-C. Now let's just go side by side with last year's, so this is the 15 Pro Max, and that's the 16 Pro Max, shall we say. So very similar size, very similar rounded edges. Camera bump though, ever so slightly different, I would say. Ever so slightly. I would say they protrude almost the same amount. So really on the 16 Pro and Pro Max, we're looking at very similar dimensions. It's actually taller, so it's a bigger phone, which will mean a bigger screen. So you can see the difference ever so slightly there. All right, so that's the difference in size of the 15 to 16. If we put the side by sides together, you'll see same button for your basic functions, and then an additional button down the bottom there. So everything else stays the same. Volume buttons and action button in almost the exact same spot, but interestingly there is that extra millimetre or 2. It's probably a good 2 millimetres actually, maybe 3. Width-wise, it does have a tiny bit extra width, but it's 0.5 millimetre at most. It's tiny. So that's a bigger phone, which obviously indicates a bigger screen. So look, they're functionality-wise, the cameras look identical in terms of, still a flash, still a LiDAR sensor, still a triangle array for the Pro cameras, which has been traditionally how Apple has done their cameras on the Pro models. So we can see those there. But as I said, on the standard 16 Plus here, Pro Max there, a vertical display or vertical orientation of the cameras. So the big news there really is this camera button. I think this, if there's been any rumors to that effect, these dummies, these very early dummies, these machined hard metal dummies indicate that we are going to be snapping away, selfieing away till the cows come home. We are a long way off an iPhone 16. We're talking, it's mid-April now, so May, June, July, August, September, 5 months away from the iPhone 16. So there's an enormous chance that this is the final version and they'll go into production in the next couple of months. There's also an enormous chance that it's very early and they'll change their mind at a factory level. We're a long way off knowing that for sure, but if we're to be guided by anything in the past, it is that the dummies that we've received over 10 years are absolutely spot on for Apple. Samsung dummies, less reliable, but Apple dummies have been remarkably reliable over many, many years. So iPhone 16, a very incremental step, but perhaps a hint to how photography rules our world when it comes to smartphones, and it'll be interesting to see how they play that out at the announcement in 5 months from now. All speculation, nothing absolutely set in stone, even though everyone will write that this is the iPhone 16. I believe it is, but I think it's wrong to suggest that directly to people because it's early days. These are literally dummy mock-ups. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you're excited about a camera shutter button on the iPhone 16. And if you're a 16 and 16 Plus person, do you want the action button? Because it looks like you're getting it.